So Richard and I were gonna do this father-son project. Thought, hey, need to do something with the boy so we can bond. And in true father-son fashion, guy fashion, we have to do a vehicle. We have to build one. We are thinking and looking around and researching what kind of vehicle we should build because he needs something to drive. He's 15 right now, so coming up on his getting his license. We think about building one from ground up, look at plans, look at welding, look at manufacturing, and realize that's maybe a little bit too much for us. We find a large dually pickup truck in town, 1 ton, pretty good size one, without an engine or anything, and think that might be kind of fun. Engine looks or the body looks pretty good. We could put that together, but realize that might be a bit too much for us. That might be 5 years worth of work. Well, a friend of ours from church had a daughter with a truck that had a blown transmission. And we thought, everything else works. We could probably do that. We could probably change that transmission out. Now, mind you, I've never changed oil in a car. I've changed tires, checked the dipstick, but that's about it. So let's try this. I bought the truck, get the title, and the engine works, but it doesn't go into gear. And we had it towed over to our house. We have a nice third garage where we can put things in and work on them. Borrow some tools from a friend of ours and start taking the piece apart. It's amazing what you have to do to get a transmission out. You can't just take the transmission out. The exhaust has to come off, and that's rusted on, so I had to cut, and the bolts are frozen. The drive shaft has to come off. After I took it apart, realized that you should have marked it. I should have marked it before taking it apart, because if you put it together backwards, it doesn't work. Didn't do that. There's a support bracket to pull the transfer case and transmission off that we got going on next. A lot of wiring hooking things together that we had to mark so we could put it back together again. Found a new transmission from a rebuild place in town, went and picked it up and have it in the garage. These things are several hundred pounds together. A transfer case is a smaller piece that moves the power from the transmission to the front wheels for four-wheel drive. That was the next piece to come out. It looked small, and we could probably do it and lift it out. Didn't realize these are really heavy, and got the last bolt out, and it fell really hard. Richard almost got his shoulder crushed by it, so we were very fortunate with that. Once we got that out, pulled the bolts out for the transmission, and had a transmission lift finally, or transmission jack to pull it down. By this time, all the pieces were out, transmission's ready to get back together, and Richard gets kind of bored. He's done. Well, that leaves me. In the process of doing this, we had exchanged tires with the previous owner, and in pulling the tires out of the back of the truck, I jumped out of the back and I caught my toe and had a sudden urge of pain in my left ankle. I'd broken it. It wasn't a bad break, but enough to make me mad. Had to wear a cam walker cast boot on that. So here I am scooting underneath the truck with a walker boot on, trying to get things done. And Richard's now bored. And it's up to me to put things back together. Because now it's been a month and a half, and our tool guy is wanting his tools back. Now, taking apart's one thing, but putting it back together that's a more precise, tedious project. And for one person who's never done it before, was kind of a challenge. Lined up the transmission, has the new gasket in, put the bolts in, torqued them down, and that was pretty awesome. Transfer case put back on, the support brackets, put the drive shaft back together, and I hoped it was the right direction. Got the headers back on, and it was together. Now it's time, the moment of truth comes. Tires get put back on, jack stands are out, place it back on the ground. I sit in this driver's seat and start it up, because Richard doesn't have a driver's license. Start the engine up. Oh, it sounds good. Without mufflers on, it's really nice and loud. Put her in gear, nothing happens. It doesn't move. I was mortified. I spent all this time, all this effort, and it didn't work. I was in tears. Had everybody come out and watch, and I was embarrassed. It was terrible. The next day I called my friend Darren and said, Darren, what did I do wrong? He came over and took a look. He's underneath the truck and says, Dan, give me a 1/4-inch crescent wrench. So I hand that to him. He's down for about a minute and a half. I hear him moving things, and he gets up, dusts himself off, climbs in the driver's seat, turns the engine on, puts it in gear, and drives away. There was a linkage I'd forgot to hook up to go from the shift, the steering column down to the actual engine itself, or the transmission. That's all he had to do. Once that was hooked up, the engine worked fine, and the car worked fine. We had done the right thing. We had fixed the right piece. That was when Richard was 14 or 15, and now he's 24. So here, almost 7-8 years later, he's still driving that truck. That was a really good project. I had a good time with it. I learned a tremendous amount of things. I still don't know how to change oil. I haven't done it yet. But I can change a transmission out in that type of vehicle. That was fun. And I'm glad that Richard's still there. Richard's still driving it, still enjoying it.